Okay, so here we have game 2 from the Sigma tournament. I'm playing black, and my opponent is Jam996. And you guys can search these profiles up to see the rating. This is the Russian flag, and I'm playing black. 15 plus 10 time control. Game 2, I won my first game, so I'm playing someone who also won their first game, and it's a 5-round Swiss tournament, rated by the Chess Federation of Canada. Here we go. We have e4 from white. I play the Karo Khan, and we have the exchange variation with bishop d3, intending to play c3, bishop f4, and just develop the. Even though the opening principles that you teach beginners is knights before bishops, in this variation you actually see the bishops being developed first, because you might put the knight on these squares, but these are just the best positions for the knight, for the bishops. So there's no problem here, and I develop my knights, all my knights, and here we have, after bishop f4, bishop g5, f3. I've induced f3. This is a sort of a weak move because now the knight can't come here and come to e5, which is very typical in these positions. The e5 square is so important to bring the knight in because it controls a lot of squares and puts pressure on black position. So this is a positional win for me. And now we see knight e2, and that's a non-threatening move, so I'm perfectly fine with these positions. And bishop d6, bishop d3 castles. We have the knight coming out to b3. I go ahead, prepare a6 and the minority attack in these structures. This is called the Carlsbad structure, where you have this set of pawns and then the minority, and then you have a majority on the queen side, and then this minority, 3 on 4. And I want to play b5, but I anticipate I anticipate knight coming here, and I take pawn takes, and then something like knight f4 to attack my knight, or bishop takes, then knight c5, and then we're gonna have knight g3 gaining a tempo on my bishop here. And I don't want to trade this bishop; it's very active, so I want to trade it for his active bishop, and preemptively get it away from h5. Now we have rook e1. I mean, I guess he wants to go here, maybe trade bishops, or take my bishop, and maybe bring the knight back and bring it to e5. We have a3 controlling b4, rook c8. I'm anticipating the knight coming here. So if we have like something like this, I anticipated this, where b4 is coming. He has a connected pass pawn, but now I get to c4, and I mean, if we have something like this, I can plant my no, not there. I could plant my bishop here. This pawn, I'm gonna try and bring my king to stop it, and I have a 4 on 3. So I'm saying, like, okay, this pawn, even though it's connected, like, I can blockade, and these pawns are very weak, and I'm gonna try and stop your queenside advance. But on second thought, I probably would not have taken. I probably would have played something like maybe queen b6. This protects d7, and also control b7. Then play something like knight a5, knight c7, and I'm not going to take because that would get him a connected pass pawn, and I'll just have him overextend on the queen side. What we have here is now a trade of bishops, and look at the time. Look at the time that passes. He has wasted too much time, and that played a big factor in how the game played out. And now we have knight a5 intending to go to c4, and also protecting the pawn on a6. We have a trade of bishops, queen d3. Notice how I maintained the tension. If I took, this would have brought his queen out, and that would have been helpful for him. So he wastes a move trading and bringing the queen out. And I offer a trade of knights because this knight is very active and is blocking my rook. And now we have my knight back to b7, controlling c5 because I saw that with the move knight f4, he wanted to go to d3 and c5. So I preemptively control it. I double my rooks. And now I say, you know what, you can come to c5, but I'm advancing on the queen side. I'm advancing on the queen side, and my knight can go to pretty good squares. He attacks my knight, I defend it, and now we have a3. I think that a4 is the worst move other than c4 in this position. You could have like b4 and takes. He maintains a grip on c5, and it's not so easy for me to. I mean, I could come to c4, but you know, we both have active knights, so it's not that simple. Who's better in this position? I have an isolated b pawn, but I do have control of the a file. I have a getaway square. This f pawn is weird, but it's not easy for me to get that c file open. So it is a good position, an okay position for him. I think I would have preferred b4, but now in this position, the c file is open and the b file. So adjacent files are open. Because when he plays b4, I have the c file and a file open, but they're not right beside each other, so it's harder for me to coordinate my pieces. But here we have this, and I can easily work with open files next to each other. I offer a trade of knights, and I don't take because that, again, going to give him connected pass pawn and improve his position. I'm going to try and target these two isolated pawn weaknesses, but they do protect a very strong knight. For a queen trade, knight d6, advance my knight, g5, preventing the f or h pawn coming forward, and then also so in the future I can play my king here. Rook back. Now rook back is actually a mistake because, well, actually with g5 I'm threatening, oh, I'm not threatening anything, but with knight here I threaten this, so obviously he protects on f3, and now I protect any pawn advance, and he plays his king t2. He's threatening to come to here and actually sacrifice. This is the correct plan for white because these pawns are very strong, and he can actually get this, escort this b pawn forward. I need to control the a file and get some counterplay, but I play rook c8 for no apparent reason, and then rook a8. I could have just played rook here, but I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe something like, I don't know, rook here, and then if I trade, like it's not on the back rank or something. Whoa, I flipped. Oh, if you press X, it flips the position, but that's weird. But now we have, like in this variation, this is not good. So I waste a move just putting my rook to c8. Okay, he defends, but the correct move here is actually to take because his king is very active, and this is a scary pawn. I have to move my rook. But he doesn't take. He plays rook c3, which is a mistake because now I'm threatening mate in 1 and threatening the pawn. And again, he needs to take because if we have takes, I can't take the pawn. And if I play something like this, this is very good for him. So I need to play something like this, and he could just advance, and he's escorting this pawn. This is his main source of counterplay. But he doesn't take, he just moves his h-pawn and just misses the fact that I have mate in 1. I mean, that's pretty much it. Now we could go over a computer analysis with something like, you know, this, where you have a report and much of the game has been equal until here, and when he blunders mate in 1. So this is the accuracy. I mean, don't trust the engine all the time because most of these moves were pretty good. It's not like they were bad. Bishop g4 is a book move. And again, f3 is weakening. I was expecting something like queen b3. All of these moves are fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with black's position. Maybe rook here. This file wasn't going to open up, so there was really no reason for me to put my rook there just yet. I should have been more patient. Something like e5. Wow, there's no way you would play e5 in this position if you're black. Because e5, if you play something like e5, that isolates your pawn. And even though this f pawn is weird, and these knights, like f3, c3 have been blocked. So maybe the argument is that your pawn structure is very weird. I'm gonna get my knight to c4. I'm gonna have very active pieces, and you're just bad. But okay, it's not like it's. I mean, white has an advantage, but now it's equal for most of the game. You see, all these moves are like not the best, but they don't lose anything, and I actually gain an advantage here. And again, now his pawn structure is weird. And rook here. Don't know why I just wasted a move. But rook c3 is a mistake. Rook a2 is a mistake because, again, I didn't see the threat of rook takes. Rook takes is a threat right now. It's actually a good move for white, so I need to bring my knight back. But we have rook here. And if we have something like this, this is just a crazy variation where rook b6 and rook b8 are the moves. Rook b6, you can have b5. And then the move here is rook a8, intending to double up and stopping this. We could have rook here, rook d8, and I blockade, but this knight is going to come back. And you have something like this, where you try and get the king out, and then move your rook back, because now, you could move your rook back here, and now the king is not protecting, so something like this, it's still good, but the king is not there to attack and harass your rooks. You've cut it off. And this pawn is very strong, and you're just going to be playing defense this game if you're black. But white misses that variation, obviously with low time. Right now, there's like a minute 12 on the clock for him, so doesn't have much time to calculate the sacrifice, and he just blunders mate and won. But that's game 2. Let's move on to game 3 in the next video.